This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back to the show. We are joined once again by our psychotherapist, our writer, and founder of Acceptance and Integration Training and the Alliance for Integrated Awareness. Welcome back, Melanie McGhee. How are you today?
Great. Nice to see you.
You too. And we're excited to be back to talk more about what this all means. And of course, first and foremost, before we get started, let me just have you give a little overview as to who you are, what you do, and then obviously we'll dive right into today's show.
Sure. Yes, I'm Melanie McGhee, and I've been practicing psychotherapy since 1984 and had the great good fortune to study with master therapists around the world. And the synthesis of this study came together in forming a new model of care for mental health care and spiritual and emotional well-being. And so we are working to get that in the hands of people who can use it most and get themselves feeling better.
Beautiful. And I know
the model is called
the nonprofit, as you mentioned, called the Alliance for Integrated Awareness. We're going to dive into that a little further and just an overview, because you say your core mission obviously is to really uplift all of humanity, as you say, right? And advance equity. So everyone has the access to the proper mental health care, which is beautiful, because if you missed the last show, we talked a lot about mental health, spiritual health, and how everything kind of, integrates together.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, Jill, was there a question? Did I miss it?
No, I think you broke up for a second.
Sorry.
Oh, no, not yet. But I know today we're going to focus more on what AAIT is, what we just kind of, overview. But again, this is beyond coping, and it's a new model for healing. So why don't you just break it down and discuss a little bit about AAIT? I know we're going to focus on that, what that is specifically. Let's start there.
Care are aimed at helping people manage symptoms and cope with stressors in life, but it takes years and years to get at the root cause through insight-oriented and traditional talk therapies. And coping is about getting through the day. And with acceptance and integration training, we're really looking at root cause solutions so that people can thrive in life and not just try to keep treading water emotionally and mentally, but to really feel like they're thriving and can move towards their goals with more ease and release the pain of the past with more freedom.
Great. And the core message for today.
Coping helps us manage the pain, Jill, but integration helps us dissolve the pain. It helps us just release it entirely.
Got it.
Yeah. So our core message today, what we're really hoping people understand, is that healing can be rapid. We don't have to spend months and years in therapy in order to heal. It can be rapid.
Great. And you mentioned, why settle for managing emotional pain when we can resolve it, right?
Absolutely.
So understanding that rapid, durable change really is possible. So let's talk a little about, what would it feel like if the problem you've carried for years no longer had a hold on you? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think that one of the things that happens when we have these problems with our spouses, with our colleagues, or our children and friends, it tends to occupy our mental and emotional attention. And that constricts our capacity to make choices that are skillful and freed up from that emotional baggage. We can see other perspectives when we're not drowning in our pain. And so these daily choices that happen, these really inform our destiny. And so when we bring more consciousness to these daily choices with the our intimate people, it tends to create more and more steadiness, more and more inner calm, more and more peace, because we're making choices that are aligned with who we are rather than who we think we should be, or we think other people think we should be. And that's liberating. That's really liberating.
Got it. Well, thank you for being here. Again, Melanie McGhee, if you are just tuning in, we're ecstatic for her to join us today. And with episode 2, if you missed the first, you got to go watch it because we learned a lot about her background and, of course, her purpose and, you know, why she's here and why mental health really matters more than ever. So today, again, we're going beyond coping. So let's talk a little bit about what you believe, you know, coping strategies, why, I should say, why regular coping strategies aren't enough.
Well, the coping strategies, and we need, you know, we need all of it. Coping strategies are beneficial, but they aren't enough to inhibit the kind of recurring patterns that we get into, recurring arguments, recurring ways of seeing things, the recurring automatic negative thinking habits that we have. It can help us elevate a little bit, but it doesn't resolve the problem at the root. The root cause solution doesn't really get addressed. And most of us, frankly, don't ever know what is the absolute root cause of this problem. We could spend decades in therapy unpacking our lives trying to find this singular issue that creates these multiple issues, but that's not the way it works. None of us really have a full picture of what's going on. And when we move beyond coping to really go at complete resolution, it's like we've removed, it's like we're rolling through life in a tumbleweed and trying to live through that tumbleweed. When we remove the tumbleweed, there's a lot more freedom. We can move more freely.
Got it. Well, let's talk a little bit more about, you know, specifically what AAIT is and how, you know, differentiates, I should say, from like the traditional talk therapy that people may know more about.
Yeah, sure. So acceptance and integration training, or AAIT, it's, as I said, it's a synthesis of decades of study and personal practice. And what we're looking at here is finding the charged thought, image, emotion, or body sensation that's wound up in some problem. And then in a variety of ways, we strategically oscillate between that situation and some opposite situation. So what happens then is that the charged energy of the thought or the emotion or the intrusive image is neutralized when it's balanced with its opposite. I mean, we all kind of know if you have a pot of hot water and you pour a pitcher of cold water in it, it's going to get warm. It's going to be able, you're going to be able to put your hand in there. And in the same way with acceptance and integration training, we are revealing possibilities for client insights and wisdom to arise. And so in traditional talk therapy, you might be relying on the clinician's clinical wisdom and their experience and their expertise to guide you. And with acceptance and integration training, what we find is that our clients' wisdom really arises after we engage in acceptance and integration. They have insights about their problem. They have direction and wisdom about what steps to take next that are far more congruent than a therapist whom they see once a week or maybe twice a month would be able to give them. And so it's a game changer in terms of equalizing the relationship, that where that might have been kind of hierarchical with the therapist providing all the wisdom, and this really elevates clients and therapists alike to walk hand in hand and let that wisdom arise and let that insight arise from the client, which it does.
Got it. Well, you know, let's talk a little about healing in general, because you say it can be rapid and lasting. So what really makes that all possible?
Because we're working with how the brain and consciousness actually functions, and so how it's possible is that when we integrate opposing experiences, say fear and calm, there's a lot of anxiety going on in the world right now, and we all are craving some kind of stability, some kind of security. When we oscillate between fear and security, for instance, the brain updates these old neural patterns, and we have a chance to, it's called like a memory reconsolidation. The emotional charge associated with the upset of the fear dissolves. So it's a bit like resetting a circuit that was overloaded. And people don't just feel better, Jill. Their nervous system reorganizes around peace instead of pain. Their nervous system, the default no mode network that perpetuates some of our fear just gets quiet, and we have access to our central executive network and have the capacity to function more clearly without the fear and those hormones going off in our brain and our body. So when the mind integrates what was split, the charge disappears and the healing becomes durable. There's nothing left for it to hook onto because there's no longer any charged energy. And so that's what makes it lasting. That generally within 1 to 3 sessions, you can resolve a problem for good because there's nothing for it to hook onto anymore.
Got it. Well, also with this technique, again, it's called AAIT. It's helping people get unstuck from old patterns. So how does it really work? And is it the unsticking? Is this real, like long lasting? And how many sessions do you need? Yeah, if you could explain all this, that'd be great.
Yeah. So how it works is that we all carry these loops of reactivity, kind of compulsively responding to similar stimuli in the same way. We might always get irritated when this person does that. And so part of how it works is that we have a very strategic use of our session time, that we move through 5 phases in the model. And so where in traditional care, we might spend all of our time trying to seek understanding. That's just the first phase with AAIT. We just spend the first 10 to 20 minutes seeking understanding with our clients. And then we're good to go to address the reactivity, these emotional habits that we all do. We all do this. It's automatic. So we're teaching our clients to look for those reactions that feel unbidden, outside of their conscious control. And we bring that into conscious awareness and then resolve that reactivity in a variety of ways. We have numerous tools to do that, so that both sides of the conflict collapse and the loop collapses. So the person is no longer reacting from habit, they respond from choice. We really reveal that choice between stimulus and response. And it's liberating to realize that you don't have to run your life because of conditioning. So instead of spinning, these laborious excavations into the past, trying to figure out why am I the way associated with the reaction, resolving that, and then teaching the client to do the same thing so they can start taking care of their own mental health. AIT frees people from automatic reactions so that they can respond from their true self, from their own wisdom.
Got it.
Does that answer your question? Does it make it clear?
Yeah. And for those out there, by the way, who are wondering, about this and how they can get in touch with you, we're going to go over that in just a few moments, but we're ecstatic she's here. If you are just tuning in, Melanie McGhee, yeah, she's a psychotherapist, a writer, founder of Acceptance and Integration Training and this Alliance for Integrated Awareness. And really excited that she's here. And I know you've mentioned, along with your husband, right, David Patterson, and doing all this and coming up with all this. This is pretty amazing. And it's something I never heard of until I started talking to you, right, last time. But really, it's, you say that you kind of underestimate. People do underestimate how we can really rapidly change, right? But it's true. This can happen. And you have so many documented cases and people that you work with. And I love, when people can be helped because like we spoke about last time, mental health, the importance of that. And we really need to make more people aware of this. And yes, real change and rapid change is possible. So again, we're here today and talking more about AAIT and of course how, we're going to get into next time about really the transformation process and hear more of the story, shall I say. But in the meantime, let's talk more about, you mentioned integration, right? And what do you mean by integration, when it comes to AIT, and why does that really matter?
Well, I mean, ideally, we could walk through our lives feeling whole and complete. And we're in a time where, in the zeitgeist, mental health care is in popular culture, like we're broken. We are broken, and we need to be fixed. And I really take a different stance on that we're not broken, we just don't feel whole. And integration brings together these parts of us that we might have previously just shut aside. I don't particularly like conflict. It's not my favorite thing. I don't particularly like being seen, which is an
Mm-hmm.
odd thing for me, that the personal work that I had to go through to come out and say, this is a model of care that could help a lot of people, when I previously identify as, barefoot therapist in Blount County, Tennessee, right? So who am I to forward something like this? And doing the internal work of integrating those parts of me that had doubt, when I'm seeing hundreds of people get better. So personally, this is one of the things that I think is beautiful about this model, is that healing arts professionals can use it with ourselves. Like I used it with myself to be able to offer this to people. I had to overcome some things within myself to be able to put this out there. And so if we have things that we want to accomplish in life, we have goals that we want to accomplish.
Of
And so it's
course.
not just about feeling better if you're severely depressed, but you have goals, even if you're not severely depressed or anxious or traumatized, goals that you want to accomplish, but there are inner obstacles that keep us from doing that. So when we integrate the pain associated with those inner obstacles, we're no longer bound by that pain
Got
and
it.
freed up to take steps to do the things that are in alignment with our goals.
Well, we still have plenty more time to discuss this. And also for people out there wondering, it's just exciting that this is where they could start, they could take a new journey, new path, and really unlock, shall you say, their true self. So, just for some people out there, I know last time we talked about maybe they're feeling really tired, right? And as you say, they just feel tired and exhausted after getting, you say, into the weeds of clients' pain-filled stories, maybe, or you're out there longing to feel confident that you can help most clients in most sessions. Well, it's amazing that you can discover this fresh new model and work with so many people. And by the way, you're teaching, I know I've watched some of your YouTube videos. I urge people to do the same. This is all over the world, right? And you've been, teaching, other psychotherapists and people in the mental health field how to do this with their clients. And just to want to confirm, you work with people everywhere, right?
Yeah, I
And
do. Mm-hmm.
and this you mentioned, a lot of people may have heard of the EMDR, and sometimes you use this in conjunction, right?
I personally don't. I'm not trained in EMDR. There are several people in our AIT community who are
Mm.
trained in EMDR, and a couple of trainers, and they report that they actually prefer AAIT because it's
Mm-hmm.
quicker and they don't have to re-traumatize themselves. Mental health care professionals, our mental health care workforce, I think we talked about a little bit, is just, it's in trouble. Our mental health care workforce is suffering. And when we have an approach that is efficient, we can feel efficacious in our work. We can leave the work not feeling exhausted, and really know that we are making change. That's uplifting to us as therapists. And it's really, and it protects our career to be able
Yeah.
to do that, and it brings us a kind of clarity when we're working. That I was talking with an AIT trainer the other day, and she said, what I love about this is I know that pretty much whatever comes in the door, I got it. I know I can pretty much, whatever comes in the door, I can help that person. That's quite something, I think. To feel that way about every session, that's really something.
Wonderful. And also, you offer, I know, a beautiful, is it a book or it's a reflection guide, right? As well, didn't you journal something?
I wrote a retreat and reflection guide. Folks can email and I can send that, just a PDF. It's not in print anymore. And I'm currently working on a book about acceptance and integration training to introduce this in a book form for folks.
Right. And in our last 5 minutes together, what else do you want to make sure we cover for today's episode?
Well, I wanted to go back to your question about integration because I think it's really not something that's well understood. It's something that in the therapy world we've talked about for decades about the importance of it, but not the how.
Yeah.
And it was really only when I started studying with my teacher, Živorad Slavinsky, a psychologist who lived in Belgrade, Serbia, who taught me the how of integration, of how to bring together two parts of an experience that have been split, like anger and forgiveness, or grief and peace, or like we were talking about earlier, fear and security. And when those parts, those experiences inside us meet fully, the tension really dissolves and a sense of wholeness happens. That's what's valuable about integration, is the wholeness that can emerge, is what we call a kind of integrated awareness, the natural calm and clarity that's underneath all the noise. It's about the art of bringing together what's divided within us and bringing ourselves back into harmony, back into balance.
Beautiful. And even just a little bit of the background, would you mind sharing a little bit about how you've been working in conjunction, and David's story, a little bit about that for those who today are new to the show who didn't get to kind of hear that?
Um, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your question. I think you broke up a
Oh,
little bit. Could you
oh,
ask
no,
it
no.
again?
Just I know in this show we didn't really elaborate a little further how, yourself and David actually started this work. Could you just share just a little bit about that? So if they don't watch the first show, they understand how this all came about.
Sure. Yeah, my husband David is a professor emeritus, and he was just really supportive of me just traveling around and studying with different teachers and exploring and letting me go on these professional walkabouts and letting me, like, I mean it like that. But we're a really strong partnership. And so he really laid out to me how important it is to begin this with research in mind. And so the model is developed so that within the bounds of the model, we are doing research every single session. We're asking, what did you notice from the work that you did last time? Was that problem still a problem? And most people say they forgot that the problem was there. And thanks to David, asking that question became really critical in evaluating the work that we're doing. And asking them, the other question is, how likely is it that this problem will impose itself on you in the future against your will? Most people say very unlikely after like 30 minutes of work, which is, it is a wildly transformative and different approach to access that kind of change. And it seems like with those two questions, how likely is it that this will impose itself on you in the future against your will? Therapists don't generally ask that. And when I'm teaching therapists, it makes them very uncomfortable at first to ask that question, to ask about the durability of the work. Yeah, so we do, because we want people to have the right tools to live from their whole self and recognize that healing is possible and it doesn't have to take long.
Got it. Well, let's wrap up for today. And did you want to leave us with anything in particular?
Well, I think that I would just repeat again that healing doesn't have to be a lifetime project. With the right approach, the right tools, people can find balance, freedom, and peace and start living from their whole self, like today. It doesn't have to take long.
Great. And how
And with
can
things
we,
moving so fast in our world,
oh, go ahead. little bit of a delay there.
Yeah, with people, with things moving so fast in our world, to have something that makes it easy for us to come back home to ourselves is a real balm. It's a real balm to the soul.
Yep. Well, Megan, let's remind everyone how we can reach out to you. Would you mind sharing your phone number or website, any form of contact for everyone today?
Sure. It's Melanie McGhee, and you can find us at learnaait.com, and you can email info@learnaait.com, and that'll find its way to me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Melanie, and hope you have a fantastic day. And we will be back again next week. Same place, same time, right? And in next week's episode, I know we're going to dive in a little further with AIT and talk more about transformation and actually hear about, a lot of stories about, people who have transformed, what it's done. And feel free to bring someone on if you want as well. Always welcome to talk, about their shift, their transformation. And in the meantime, go to the website, check it out. There's some great testimonials there too. Thank you, Melanie.
Great.
Have a great
Thanks
day,
much,
sweetheart. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.